Welcome to the Fresh Outlook Business Symposium. This is your host, Coach Johnny G. We got a special guest today, assistant coach, Cal State Fullerton men's basketball, Anthony Santos. I had the pleasure to, coach Anthony when he was as a youth, and been in touch with him off and on throughout his career. But I want to, give him the fresh outlook and, give his fresh outlook in what's going on in today's basketball world. And obviously, he is assistant coach for the Cal State Fullerton men's basketball team. So just to start, Anthony, tell us about yourself, your background, how did you get into coaching, and what led you to Cal State Fullerton?
Yeah, I gotta start out and say that quarantine hasn't been very good, so I haven't got a haircut or I haven't really shaved. So pardon this look that I'm kind of rocking right now. I usually try to look as I can, but just wanted to make sure I threw that out there. No, I right out of high school I went to Cal State Fullerton. Sure, I had aspirations to play, college ball. It didn't work out in my favor. Dealt with a couple of injuries, 2 ACLs, a broken femur. So, my whole thing was trying to find a way to just stay involved. And being at Fullerton, I ended up getting my bachelor's, got into the master's program. And while working as a master's on my master's degree, I was the director of basketball operations for the men's team. And so backtracking just a little bit, not having played college ball, I started coaching high school and did that for 3-4 years. My last year of undergrad, I decided to help out with our men's program at Fullerton, got involved as a manager, did different things, set up, breakdown, helping our guys, doing a little skill work. I just ended up earning that trust. Fast forward to me being a master's student, I was essentially working a ton of hours for no pay. And so being a master's student, I taught classes 2 days a week. And then I worked a full-time plus job being the director of basketball operations. And I don't know what everyone knows about that, but everything that goes behind the scenes, our schedule, our travel, our budget, our gear, everything, all the above fell on me. And if something went wrong, whether I was directly in charge of it or not, it was my fault. And so I took huge responsibility in that, huge pride in that, being able to do my job to the best that I could. Ended up being the director of basketball ops for 5 years.
Nice.
During those years, I tried to move around a little bit to see what other opportunities there were, whether it was the NBA or junior college or high school. And through all those opportunities and interviews, Fullerton just kind of stuck. It was home for me. My family was around. But also, I didn't get those jobs.
Yeah.
But my whole thing is the experience part of it. You can never take away from the experience. And so 5 years in, there ended up being a staff opening, an assistant spot. And basically through all those years, putting in the work, all the behind the scenes stuff, being underpaid, to not paid at all. I was bumped up to be an assistant coach. Now I am finishing my 3rd year.
Nice.
Sometimes with the quarantine, you lose track of, what time of the month it is. Cause typically right now we're with our guys, we're recruiting, and it's kind of crazy, just being stuck at home where I am. That's why I got this backdrop. So you see what I'm working with back here, but just trying to make the most of it.
Oh, cool, man. So, in terms of growing up, I mean, obviously, you have a unique, I think, path to the college coaching world. In high school, you have any role models that you looked up to that kind of shaped your mind to get into college coaching, and then obviously talk a little bit about in college and now that you are coaching professional college coach. Any role models that you look up to? So kind of like to approach that aspect.
Yeah. Obviously it's everything goes back to your roots, right? So obviously my parents, my brother, my parents, specifically my mom, she taught me the caring aspect. Like she developed that type of characteristic in me. So, wherever I go, that caring aspect comes with me. My dad, he's the hard one on me, so as much as he was and is hard on me about doing certain things, he also was detailed and he worked hard. And I think, from a lot of families, specifically mine, like me and my brother, we work hard at what we do. We don't give up. And just having that type of mindset, I think, is huge. And then, I mentioned my brother. My brother played. My brother was really, really good. He's better than me, but he wouldn't be able to beat me. But he, he went his route. He doesn't play anymore. But, my whole thing for him was, try and experience playing college ball. And if you don't like it, then, be good. Be good walking away from it. And, he played 1 or 2 years at junior college, ended up playing, I think their D2 Concordia in Portland. And, it just wasn't for him. And, he hung it up, but now he's doing something that he loves. And it goes to my parents. Just the hardworking, being detailed, having a plan. And then, as you want to talk about coaching, I worked for two head coaches while I was in high school. So I learned the game that way. I was never the most talented, so I had to work hard. I had to look at the game from a different perspective. And, taking the things that I experienced high school level playing and coaching and, wanting a challenge. So I went from coaching high school basketball to being a volunteer manager with our men's team and working under, guys like Coach Burton, who knows way more basketball than I'll ever come to know. And, guys along the way, Coach Waterman, who's at Art, Andy Newman at San Bernardino, Julius Hicks, who's an administrator at Northridge. Two of our assistants now, Brandon Dunson, Gus Argino, both with different backgrounds. Gus was a D2 head coach, ended up going to Nevada. Brandon was at Stanford. He's probably one of the more sought after assistant coaches in our game. And then, two guys that I worked with as assistants that end up being head coaches, John Smith, who's at Cal Poly in our league, and then Danny Sprinkle at Montana State. And I know Danny Sprinkle is probably a huge one for me just because he was a young guy always trying to make it, once again, working hard, working on weekends, putting in those hours to get where he wanted to be, and that was to be a head coach. So I aspire to him a lot. We have tons of conversations surrounded around hoops, surrounded around recruiting, life. But I'd say for me right now, one of the biggest one is the head coach that I work for right now, Dedrick Taylor. And to express how much, he's done for me, what he means to me, I can't do that because he's had such a big influence on my life on and off the floor, and how much he encourages learning and growing and working. I mean, you'll probably hear me say that a lot, is just the working aspect. And I think, once again, I never played, and people will look at that as, a knock on you. But I turned that against them, and, I've learned the game differently.
Yeah.
I saw the game, from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And if anything, it's making me work harder to reach a high level of success and be good on the floor. I wasn't great putting stuff on the floor, going from an ops to an assistant.
Yeah.
And I think one thing Coach Taylor did was he encouraged me to step out of my shell and, be more assertive on the floor, whether it was stopping our guys or whether it was inputting a drill. And, him knowing me and us having our relationship, he knows that I'm my biggest critic. And so if I don't do something well, I'm going to be hard on me. Yeah. I'm going to be hard on myself, and I'm going to demand more from myself the next time around. And, I just been fortunate enough to be around good people. And I think that's one of the hardest things. And then, obviously when you coach, you have colleagues, other assistants, GAs, video guys, ops guys that are also trying to make it, whether it's going from those support staff roles to being an assistant, or whether it's being an assistant moving 6 to 12 inches over to be the head coach. So, there's a lot of different people to name, to look up to, just because everyone has a different experience. But at the end of the day, I'm here to help as much as I can. And, I think I'm blessed to have people like you, Coach Jeff, all these other coaches that have come across my life, be able to look back and take something from them.
Yeah. You talked about a lot about your network and I guess the people that influenced you. I mean, man, that's a lot of basketball minds and a lot of basketball knowledge, So, I mean, do you have a coaching philosophy that you've kind of kind of defined to a degree if you were to, hopefully in the future goes to become a head coach? I mean, just talk about, what's your philosophy on defense, what's your philosophy on offense, what type of style you want to play, and then obviously what type of personnel you're looking for to fulfill that philosophy. If you could talk a little about that.
Yeah, and I think with philosophy, it's always changing, right? You hear, every day I'm on a Zoom call, or I'm reading an article, or I'm reading a book, to help myself be better and continue to grow my philosophy, my beliefs, my values. But I think the biggest thing is being genuine. You want who you are, because if you try to be somebody else, or you try to emulate somebody else, you're not gonna be successful, because it isn't you.
Yeah.
I mentioned it before, but the work. I want guys. I want a staff. I want people to hold me accountable to the work, because there is no substitute for that. And along with that work, obviously being committed to the process, not being outcome oriented, but along as you get, across that spectrum, developing a culture that wins.
Yeah.
That when you come in, your fight is to hold that standard where it is, and if not, raise it. And I believe, and it's way easier said than done, but having a player ran program, it's one thing to put in the X's and O's.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have guys, high character guys that believe in what you're doing, systematically, schematically, whatever, it makes coaching, it makes the relationship piece easy. And I mean, everyone can go into the X's and O's and all that type of stuff. I mean, just to keep it somewhat general.
Yeah.
Personality.
Like right now, what are you looking for in type of style? If you were to say tomorrow get a head coaching job, like what style you want to play, or you envision your team to play?
Yeah, for me, I'm big on size and versatility, because I feel like multiple guys can do different things. You can put them on in different places on the floor, and take advantage of the mismatch. Because at the end of the day, that's what the game is. Where do you have the biggest advantage, or game plan that this team doesn't do well? Now you put them in that situation. So having guys that are versatile I think is a big thing. I'm big on size, just because I feel like you cover more ground. Offensively, I want to play fast. I think it's exciting. It's where our game is, especially with guards that can push the ball, that can run the lanes, and get downhill, be aggressive. Like that's my nature.
Yeah.
I'm typically quiet, but when it comes down to competing, I want to do whatever it takes, within the game to win.
Yeah.
To leave a mark, whether it's a win or a loss. Like I want teams and players and coaches to walk away like, man, Cal State Fullerton, or whatever program I'm associated with, they gave us their best shot.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy the next time around. Defensively, man to man, I take pride in that, and that's once again, that's me. I'm big on preparation. What are the characteristics? What are the traits? What are the tendencies of each of these players? And now, how are we going to take it away? Whether it's carrying a high hand, taking away vision immediately. Some guys, they really put it on their as they're shooting, they really put it on their right hand, on their right shoulder. So using your left hand and covering that right shoulder so that way they can't get it up. Just some of those small details. And I think it goes back to the preparation of things. And just being able to take away the team's top two options, top two players, and make it harder for them and make them get to third, fourth, fifth option, to where, now they're out of rhythm. We're in our rhythm because we're doing what we do, and we're dictating pace versus allowing them to run around and do what they do best.
Yeah.
Preparation is a big thing, whether you have size and versatility. Preparation is a big thing at the end of the day on both ends of the ball.
Yeah. I know you talked a little bit about the work that you've done as a college coach, and I think a lot of people go to games and they just see the glitz and glamour, kind of like the end product of all the hard work. Yeah. And recruiting is huge. So, and I know you're out in the gyms. I mean, obviously you're not now because obviously the whole COVID, Corona pandemic. But prior, obviously you're in the scene with the AAU basketball, the high school season. In terms of player development, what do you see that players are doing that have evolved that's an advantage, and obviously now what players are forgetting? Maybe they need to work on. If you touch upon that in terms of player development in the high school and AAU scene that you've seen, on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, with high school and AAU, man, it's so fluid, I guess is a word to use, in that there's always a lot of moving pieces. You don't know where a kid's going to be at from one summer to the next.
Yeah.
And the loyalty piece, kids are bouncing around. The level of toughness, I feel, isn't as present as it has been in the past. If things get hard, guys leave, they transfer. And once again, it translates over to the college game. And even in the NBA, you could talk about it in all facets. NBA guys, they want to team up. Kids always want to team up. They don't want to, be a one-man show versus, try and take down a Goliath.
Yeah.
Advantage-wise, it's two different styles. Club ball, they run around. There's not much structure.
Yeah.
High school-wise, sometimes there's structure just depending on where you go and the coach that's there. But at the same time, the detail. And I feel like high school kids, they don't get enough detail, whether it's skill, right? They're talking about all these different dribbling. Well, to be effective, sometimes you only need 2 dribbles.
Yeah.
Being able to pass. Like, I think passing is one of the most undervalued skills out there. Can he shoot your pass, right? Can you put it in his shooting pocket? That way he doesn't have to dip it. He doesn't have to catch it and bring it to his shot pocket. Can you just do all that and get him, a wide open in rhythm look? And once again, it's the game, right? You go through the process knowing that. And sometimes, that's part of the recruiting process. You have to vet those things out. You have to see kids in different lights and different situations to be able to know how they are in one setting and know how they are in another. They could be in structure high school wise, but if they're running around in the club scene, you don't see that unless you see them on both sides of the spectrum. And when they get to you, they're going to be different as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the time that gets put into it, right? So, and that's why, kids struggle at the next level, in my opinion.
Yeah. Also, too, you touched upon on the recruiting trail and looking at, the kids in high school and in the AAU circuit. Could you also touch upon parents? Because parents are used that they don't understand in terms of how their actions or even on the court and even off the court. A lot of college coaches also look at that to a degree, if you could elaborate more on that, because, there's a lot of LeVar Ball, influence going on. If you have any thoughts or opinions on that, that'd be great to share.
Yeah, and once again, like I'm old school. My parents, especially my dad, he may not have said anything during the game, but in that car, man, that's my worst, not my worst coach, but the hardest coach to hear it from.
Yeah, yeah.
But parents in the game now, I'm not a big fan of, how they are during games. They have every right to cheer. Um,
Mhm.
I think my approach is also a little different in that I officiated too.
Yeah.
So when parents are attacking officials, I'm like, man, like this is how else are they attacking? Who else are they attacking? Are they saying things behind coach's back? And I get it. I'm not saying officials are perfect. They're not. I'm not perfect when I officiate.
Yeah.
When I go out to watch games, I'm like, man, these officials are having a hard time. But once again, I try not to criticize too much because I'm not in their shoes. And same goes for parents. Everyone. I'm okay with everyone expressing themselves, right? We all have that freedom to do that, to be passionate. I don't ever want to take away from the passion of the game from players, from coaches. I think it's important when you talk about the recruiting process to know the kid's background,
Yeah.
to know those parents, to see what they want, right? Like Fullerton, we're not a high major, we're a mid major, if that. Coach likes to call us a no major, but
Yeah.
um, we vet things out. We have to vet things out as much as we can. And for us, we've been fortunate enough to have really good parents. We basically set the table for them when we go through their sons and their recruiting process or the relationship building piece. Encourage them to ask the tough questions.
Yeah.
When we talk to club coaches, when we talk to high school coaches, when we talk to trainers, tell us about this kid.
Yeah.
What is home life like? Okay, he's coming from a rough background. Okay, single family home. Okay, now you get to understand these kids a little bit differently, and maybe get a better understanding of why their parents or their trainers are the way they are. And I think at the end of the day is, as you gather this information, how does it fit you?
Yeah.
We've come across kids who's like, man, this parent's dad or this parent's coach is tough, like they're being unrealistic sometimes.
Yeah.
Everybody wants their kid to go play at UCLA, USC, Kansas, North Carolina, Duke. And is it the right fit? And when I mean fit, I'm not just talking about the player, but the experience. Because when a player comes to your campus, for us, we talk about them being part of our family. And it's not just them, it's their brother, their sister, their mom, their dad.
Yeah.
Associated with them is now part of our family. And, we don't just want to bring anybody into our family like that.
Yeah.
The character piece and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I know you went right into what I want to talk next about the recruiting process, and I think a lot of people know about it. I mean, I'm kind of in the mix also on the women's side, but if you could touch upon and just communicate, coming from your side, what are college coaches or just college in general looking for grades? Obviously within academics, you have the SATs, ACTs. Coming straight from a college coach's mouth. I mean, what's our qualifications? Obviously with grades, again, academics, and all the standardized tests that need to do to qualify.
Right. I think so. Obviously, when we first see a kid, sometimes they may be brought to our attention through a friend or another coach, or we're just out recruiting. We see a kid, so we see them from a basketball standpoint, right? Are they good enough? Is this what they do? Is not okay. So basketball is the easy part, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Do they fit meeting all these different requirements that fit your program? Aside from that, the hardest piece and the most tedious piece is the academics. Every school has different academic standards. The Pac-12, the WCC have different standards from each other and have completely different standards to Cal State Fullerton, and schools at our level. And so, one, you got to think, does he fit can he fit in our academic rigor? And you judge that by their grades. And I'm not saying, a kid that has D's and all this type of stuff isn't good enough or isn't capable of fitting in with our group. But then you look at their track record. Maybe they started off their freshman, sophomore year bad, but, over the summers, they started taking classes. And, junior, senior year, they finish out strong. Well, we look at that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously the NCAA requirements, having a certain GPA and having a test score, ACT or SAT, that is in conjunction with that score to make you a quote unquote qualifier. And, a lot of these kids, they think just because they're talented, they'll be able to go wherever they want. And unfortunately, that isn't the case. Having these different relationships with people in college and in the pro ranks, I've gotten letters, or I've gotten texts, I should say, from scouts saying, this kid, are there any kids on your radar that, are probably not going to qualify, that we should kind of keep tabs on? Maybe they're going to go Division II or Division III or JUCO, right? And so, like, there's a couple kids now, and I don't know where their grades are, but a couple kids, I think, declared for the draft right out of junior college, and that's kind of unheard of. Once again, this whole recruiting process is evolving, and I think the most important thing is you have to control what you can. You have to control what you can control, and at that very point, when you're in school, you have control of your grades. And it sucks for us as coaches, kids that come down to the wire and are not going to qualify, right? Or they're a red flag, like, oh, let's keep recruiting this kid. If he ends up qualifying, then we need to have him with us. Well, there's instances where kids don't qualify late, but us as coaches, we can't wait till we wait around for a kid to qualify or meet certain requirements, because if he or she doesn't, then now we still have an empty scholarship, and now we're stuck. So we always, recruiting in general is always evolving. Today, our needs today will be different in 2 days than it was today, than it was a week before. So I think putting your best foot forward in whatever you do, especially academics, is a huge deal, because if you don't handle that piece, everyone says that you're a student athlete. If you don't handle the student piece, you won't be able to be an athlete.
That's right.
Taking care of those things along with your body and continuing to work on the floor on your skills is just as important as succeeding in the classroom and graduating with a degree.
Let's talk more about switching gears. Let's talk about more about the Cal State Fullerton men's basketball. I want to know more about what you guys built. Obviously, I know that you I think last year you went to NCAAs, I believe, right?
2 years ago. 2 years ago.
2 years ago, and you're just trying to continue the success. And how's the culture? What are the goals? And what's the philosophy of your program? Like, if you want to communicate that to everybody, that want to know more about what Cal State men's basketball is about.
Right. We've had success as of late, and when you talk about success, you can't just overlook the hard times, right? So I think we're going on year 8 now, or year 9. I lose track, but the first 3 years we struggled. We sucked, to be honest. We turned it around, and we were able to get high character guys that we were able to develop. And, we saw winning seasons, 3 consecutive winning seasons, one of which we went to the tournament 2 years ago. 2 years ago, went to the NCAA tournament. A year ago, we lost in our conference championship. So we had a chance to go to the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row. And I think that's obviously the best part of our league and our program is you can get to that tournament. You can win the league year in and year out. There's never really the same team that does it over and over. But right now we're actually we're going to have to reinvent, reestablish our culture, just because the guys that we've had in the past, they've all left. Like, we're going to have a big turnover in our roster. Anywhere between, I think, like 6 guys. And when you talk about losing 6 guys that have played a lot the last several years, your culture kind of goes with that. And not we have bad, our other guys are bad. They're great kids, but we brought in freshmen that didn't really necessarily play a lot. And so that reestablishing of the culture is something that we talk about as a staff over and over. Obviously we need to get one more guy. But once we have our group, once we know who our group is, fighting for that culture. And I think for us, our head coach, Coach Taylor, calls it the hard helmet and lunch pail mentality. And we don't have the best of everything, facilities, equipment, whatever. We have enough of everything.
Yeah.
And we don't allow our guys to make excuses, for that. Our guys have 24/7 access to the gym. So shoot, get in there, work on your game, whether it's with us, whether it's with a teammate, whether it's with a manager, on your own, but work. There's no substitute for work at all. And I think for us, the tides changed as a program when we started to put in more sweat equity with our guys.
Yeah.
I'm fairly young. I'm 30. Our staff, our other assistant right now, he's 30. Our other assistant, he's maybe upper 30s, but he runs like 5-6 miles a day.
Yeah.
So we're active. Our previous staff, that helped start the winning ways, the winning culture, they were active. Whether it was working out, running, it was important to us, and we knew we had to stay in shape to be able to get on the floor and work with our guys as a team, in small groups, individually. And one of our players that I had a really good relationship with, who's gone on and graduated, but I guarded him whenever we worked out, and he was probably one of the more decorated guys in our program. He was an MVP when we went to the championship. But once again, the sweat equity.
Yeah.
And so, hey, KJ, I can't work today, man. My body's beat up. He understands that because he knows I'm not hiding from it. I'm willing to put in the work with you early or late or, on off days, because that's how we got to where we are now. And I think the biggest thing, aside from work, being able to get in the gym and work, is the production and we talk about it every time, being able to produce, being efficient, whether it's recruiting, whether it's the work we're doing, taking knowledge and applying it, right? So like we always watch a ton of film and to learn about our guys. Where are our guys' sweet spots? Where are their areas that they need to work on? Why do they turn it over at a high clip? So we have all that information, and I think that's the best thing about the off season is you get to work on those things.
Yeah.
And once again, sweat equity, work, but let's put in the work so that way you can produce when the lights are on. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? Everyone wants to win, but once again, you don't see what goes on behind the scenes, the arguments, the knowledge that's being absorbed, right?
Yeah. Do you guys have what do you call it, a strength and conditioning coach or a nutritionist that helps the behind like you talked about, the behind the scenes support that that people don't see in preparation to the season?
Yeah, and I think that's the best thing about our program. Like I said, we don't have all the bells and whistles like every other program. What we have are people, great people that work. And, our strength coach, he's young, he's eager. Sometimes for our league, we'll maybe have 2 Saturdays off in our league play. And so that doesn't mean we're off, right? Like we may take a day off, we may take 2 days off because our guys' bodies needs the rest, but there's certain guys who, once again, work and they want to be in the weight room. So they're texting our strength coach like, hey, let's get in the weight room, let's work.
Yeah.
And as much as we talk about the stuff on the floor, and the culture, and our culture really, for me and my belief, starts in the weight room.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not basketball exactly, but it's an element that allows you to be efficient, productive on the floor. So bigger, faster, stronger than your opponent, or you can play more minutes at a high clip. Now we're talking about being successful and being efficient with your time.
Yeah.
And our weight room, that's a big thing for us. we've always not fought, but we've always talked about, lifting after or skipping days to lift, but we don't do that. We don't do that just because we know the weight room is just as important as our on the floor work, just as much as recovery is. And
Yeah.
everybody's body during the season is going to be different. Our high minute guys, they will lift 1 to 2 times a week when we're playing twice a week, versus our guys that don't play, they'll lift 5 days a week and they'll condition because they got to stay in shape. And, I just think he's our strength coach. He's really good at that. And once again, he's young and he's going to continue to get better. Him, kind of like myself, we're always looking for feedback
Yeah.
because we want to get better. We want to help the team in any way that we can. And, when you're looking for that information, your culture is going the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of aspiring college coaches, people out there that are or wanting to get into coaching, but more importantly they want to go down that route. Is there any advice or recommendation or things you recommend coaches to do in order to, if they hopefully when they want to become a college coach like yourself? What traits, what characters, what do they need to do in terms of networking? Obviously, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, and I just think if you want something, go get it. Don't let traveling to a different state. Don't let the monetary aspect. All these clinics and all this stuff is monetized, right? Like there's always some type of a fee.
Right.
I'm always big on don't not letting that stop you. If you want something, go get it. And if you want it that bad, you'll find a way to go get it.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like I kind of got started late in the college hoop scene. And so I wasn't able to work camps, right? Like the big thing before was, working camps, getting to know coaches that are coming to these camps, or these young GAs, young managers, whoever that are on the same track as you. And obviously they're going to have a different route, but being able to put yourself in front of those people and network, who I reached out as I was looking for grad programs to see what program I can get to, but at the same time work with a men's program. And I got a couple responses, but I probably sent out way more emails and reached out way more than I did getting a response. And everyone's busy. You can't be discouraged by that. But once again, if you want something, you gotta go get it. And I think it shows your commitment to it, right? Like I was unpaid for 2 years as a director of basketball operations, and I just found a way to make ends meet. I didn't allow the money, the time that I had to put, take away from what I wanted to do. And my position before as an ops was never paid. And after that second year, our head coach found a way to pay me a little bit.
Yeah.
And if I tell you how much, I mean, it was $20,000.
Yeah.
And before that's a lot for some of these head coaches. They probably got like $1,000 a month.
Wow.
But they worked at it. Now they are who they are. 20,000 is a lot, but or it may seem like a lot to some, but it's not. Especially when you have bills, you're paying rent. But my biggest thing is never letting something like that stop you. Like, for me to make ends meet going to the Final Four, I paid, for a lot of that stuff out of my own pocket early on. And my head coach found out and he was like, well, why are you doing that? I would have paid for you, or we would have had a way to, take it out of our budget or whatever. But for me I'm trying to do this not necessarily on my own, but I want to show that I could be resourceful and I can find a way to make something happen for myself.
Wow.
And along the way, you meet people. Like I think the hardest thing to do is that first introduction, right? Like if I don't know you and I'm gonna go up to you and introduce myself, it's hard, especially for me. I may be connected, or I may know someone that knows someone that's in the league. It's hard for me because I got to be cognizant of their time and their mind space, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you're stressed out, or maybe
Yeah.
whatever it is, but being able to introduce myself and having a firm handshake and looking eye to eye, and then the follow up, I think, when you talk about growing the game, networking, it's easy to reach out and give a handshake and, talk for 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to think, maybe 3-4 days later, hey coach, it was nice to meet you. Would love to, work camp, or would love to go down and see what you guys do for skill, just to once again be seen in a different light. Just like recruiting, right? You want to see kids in different environments. It's good for us as coaches to be seen in different environments, to be able to, allow those coaches, people that we aspire to be, let them see us in that way, because you definitely they don't get that as much.
Yeah, and then lastly, I mean, for aspiring, college players, and then obviously kids in the youth, trying to go to high school and they have dreams of playing, in the NCAA, big tournament. I mean, do you have any, words of wisdom? I mean, encouragement? Because I mean, I started this, so I wanted to motivate and inspire, young basketball players. Not only just to, if they want to become college coaches, but obviously they want to get to your team. They want to start. I mean, any encouraging advice?
Yeah, I think being self-aware, right? Everyone has all these false expectations. Every young kid growing up wants to go to the NBA, wants to play at that stage. The Kobe's, the Michael Jordans, the LeBrons. And I'm not saying I was any different. Like, I wanted to be that, but as time kind of went, I realized, I wasn't as gifted. I wasn't as talented. I worked hard, but that can only take you so far. I didn't really have all the knowledge, all the awareness of what was going on. But I think the most important piece is the self-awareness, right? And being your biggest critic, being honest with yourself. Say you end up walking onto a team, right? Everybody wants a scholarship first, but if you don't get it, it's like, okay, well, can I walk on? Can I walk on? Can I show you, this and that? What I'm made of, that I do deserve a scholarship. Well, I feel like sometimes when we're trying to prove people wrong, we get blinded, or it becomes foggy of who we really are. Maybe coaches ask your team is a downhill team, right? They want to get to the rim. Everything's finishing at the rim. But if that's not your strength, is it really best suited for you to go there and try to earn a scholarship? Right? You have to reevaluate yourself constantly and be your biggest critic, because now you get to see the game differently. You get to see how coaches view you. You get to get that feedback. And, on a recruiting call before we got on, I told a kid that it's easy to get the information. Now, the information that you get isn't always what you want to hear.
Yeah.
But if I prefaced it and I said, hey, do you want me to tell you the truth? You're probably going to tell me yes. I don't think anyone ever wants to be lied to.
Yeah.
And so when you are given the truth from a coach, whoever, how do you accept it? How do you look at it? If it's something you don't want to hear, how do you get better from it? Right? Like, there was a guy that we grew up in college. He was a walk-on. He was on the team for a year, didn't get on the next year. Well, he went on to go play pro for a little bit, and he probably never played. I don't know if he played that year, but I would venture to say he didn't play a college game. And so once again, he found a way to get his name out there, and he put himself in the position to, bet on himself and be successful. And, unfortunately, it is what it is. There's not everyone makes it to where you want to get to, right?
Yeah.
Like, my thing before was I wanted to get to the NBA and do this and that. Well, right now the NBA isn't suited for me. I have relationships with guys at that level, but me being genuine and knowing who I am, I want to be at the college level because I can have more of an impact on our guys. And, I feel like I can do more here, right? So sure, there's the academics piece, there's the compliance piece, there's certain rules to adhere by, but, having an influence on a kid's life who comes from a single family home, or that's coming from across the country, or from a different state or from a different country,
Yeah.
you know, you begin to start to have those different relationships. And that's, for me, that's what I'm big on, is the relationship piece. You know, recruiting a kid, you know, having recruited a couple kids that no one was on early, and then all of a sudden, boom, one's at Memphis, one's at Stanford.
Yeah.
Once again, they'll text me, like one of the kids, he's like, hey coach, you know, we're playing, this is our last game, you should come check out this kid. You know, and I'd really like to see. I was like, hey, I don't want to say his name, but hey, something, you know, if you want me to be there for your senior night, just say it. Like, I'm recruiting your teammate too, but you know, we have that relationship to where if you want me there for your senior night, because you know I've recruited you for 2.5 years, you know, we have a real relationship, then just say it. And I think that's always the hardest thing for kids, is being able to speak their mind, speak the truth, being realistic. Like I'm probably our team's, our program's biggest critic, because I'll be like, hey coach, that's not going to happen. We can't. Or I'll tell a player like, hey man, you really have to improve on this. And okay, you don't believe me? Well, here's my stats. Here's the information I gathered. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? Because just because you're dreaming to get to a certain goal, and you don't get there, doesn't mean it's the end of the world. How are you going to reinvent yourself, to change, to be better, to get to a version of your goal? Constantly setting goals, you know, long-term, short-term, dreaming. Trust me, your dreams are a big thing, you know, when it comes to your aspirations. And as long as you keep going down that road and you're resilient with what you want, you're confident, you're driven, you know, there's very few that'll stop you. The only thing is, you know, everyone has a different route. So don't try and go a route that worked for me, or work for X or XYZ, you know. Everyone's journey is going to be different. And I think you just have to embrace that.
Cool, man. Well, you know, I appreciate you taking the time out, you know, the Fresh Outlook Business Symposium, you know, your journey, your background, to your coaching philosophy, and then, you know, also giving information on, you know, the recruiting process in college, and then obviously talking about more about Cal State, Fullerton men's basketball. You know, in the future, I wish you guys much success. You know, hopefully you get back to the NCAA tournament, and hopefully I could watch you and be proud of you. You know, you know, like I talked about, you know, a lot of my network. You know, I've coached you when you were in the youth program, and I'm proud to see you in a successful program, and then living out your dream. So, you know, much props to you. And any last words for people that want to get in contact with you? Anything you want to, you know, communicate to?
Yeah. Well, first off, appreciate you having me. You know, people always say, you know, or I always say, I'm sorry, that, you know, I want to give back as much as I can. And once again, giving real-time feedback, you know, setting aside time for people that, you know, that want to be better. I don't think you can ever frown upon that. So appreciate you having me on here, and sharing the very little knowledge that I have. But if anyone that wants to get in contact with me, I'd say my email, ansantos@fullerton.edu. I'm on that thing all the time. Sometimes I don't respond right away, but at the end of the day, I see every email that comes across my inbox, and I try to do my best to respond as best as I can. So that would probably be the best way to get me.
All right, Coach Santos, you know, appreciate you again for being on the Fresh Outlook Basketball Symposium. For all you players out there, keep developing, keep getting better, and stay positive.